First.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Brandy with MadamNoir.com.
How you doing?
Good. Well, in the discussion just a few minutes ago, you talked about the importance of Black people supporting Black films and the power that we have as consumers. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is definitely a rebirth of Black Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, we did see a slight decline once sitcoms started going off the air. Steve Harvey, Jamie Foxx, Martin Lawrence, so many of our Black stars were made in the television and sitcom world. And there was a lull to the point where the NAACP and Jesse Jackson even had to step in and say, hold up, where are our Black faces on TV? Well, we've seen a resurgence in that. We've seen 1 hour dramas led by African-American, beautiful woman, Kerry Washington on Scandal, holding it down. The show that I was recently on NBC, Deception, Making Good, star of the show. Kevin Hart on BET, Real Husbands of Hollywood. We're seeing a lot of shows come back, and not just in television, also in theaters. But I think one thing that we as African Americans have to remember is that the only way that we are going to continue to have our stories told, hence celebrating your story, is if we support our stories when they come out. Meaning, no bootlegging. If you see a bootlegger, go to Walmart and pay the extra $5, because for every dollar that you spend is going to help another Black movie or 2 or 3 Black movies get made and tell your story to the world. I think a lot of times we forget as artists to educate our fans and our supporters. Our supporters really do want to support us. And I have my own personal story, because I remember when Jarhead came out. Actually, Jarhead didn't come out. It hadn't come out yet. And my mom bought the bootleg to Jarhead at her beauty salon. And she was so proud. She was so happy that she was supporting her son's movie. I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? You did what? She had no idea that buying the bootleg wasn't helping the film. So I think that a lot of times we just have to educate, our people and explain that bootlegging is actually bad, and actually going out to, your stores and buying the DVDs or going to the theaters and supporting the opening weekend and the second weekend as well is what will keep us all working and our stories all continuously coming to life. Sorry for the long answer. I tend to get on that, when I get in that pulpit, it shut me up.
A lot of people, a lot of the personalities who started at BET haven't necessarily translated very well after the network. I mean, with the exception of maybe like AJ, Calloway, and a few others, you're probably the most successful star to come off of BET and really translate in Hollywood in a major way. Talk about that evolution and the plan that you put in place to get to the point where you are now.
Thank you, first of all. But, I am seeing a tremendous amount of growth from the network and from building stars from the network. I mean, you look at AJ, who's in mainstream, extra, covering all Hollywood, not just Black Hollywood. Now we see Terrence J, also on E, covering all Hollywood. He's also have a very good budding film career, Think Like a Man. He's doing a lot of stuff, and he's actually in the film that I'm coming out in September called Battle of the Year. Roxy is also doing her thing. And not only are these stars now, Black stars coming from BET, but they're not just covering Black Hollywood and working in Black Hollywood, but they're working in mainstream Hollywood as well. So I do think that BET has become its own pop culture phenomenon, not just Black culture, but helped make Black culture pop culture. I believe that hip-hop is what rock and roll used to be. It is what defines fashion. It is what defines what people are saying, and it doesn't matter. It crosses color lines. It's a cultural thing, not a color thing anymore. But I do believe that BET was a very important part of my career, and I always give them a shout out and props every chance I get, because they were the first people that believed in me. Back in 2000, when I still had the big curly fro, and I weighed about 20 pounds lighter. but they gave me my shot, and I do believe that it is a viable launching pad for your career.
Tanae Kroom, EURweb.com. Hi,
How you doing?
Great.
All right.
You made mention of a lot of different shows with predominantly African American cast, some on African American networks, a lot of them now on mainstream networks. But let's be frank about it. Some of them are not that, let's say, critically good. Some would say not that good, period, even though they may not be critically acclaimed. What do you make of, though, so many of them being put on television? What is your opinion of some of them from an old school, because I'm an old school person, an older person.
Right.
I would use the term shucking and jiving
Right.
type of mentality and actions. What do you say about those comedies, because a lot of them are comedies, on television today?
You know, I think that we have to always respect art form. While I would not want to see, you know, our people doing something that demeans who we are as a people, but I do believe that we have grown to the point where, as artists, we are aware of what we're doing. You know, so if there is somebody doing that, I don't believe that they're doing it and they're not aware of what it is that they're doing. I don't know exactly which shows you might be mentally referring to. We don't have to shout nobody out. Yeah, we don't have to shout nobody out.
On TV.
Right.
You know what's on TV.
No, definitely. You know, but I will say this. You know, a lot of shows are getting flack for some of the content that they have, primarily in the reality world. You know, but I do love to see, you know, a black executive producer working and sitting in the boardroom at a major television network. And I have noticed that they have tried their best to balance out, you know, what it is, the images that the shows are portraying. But let's also remember, there is a market. People want to see that kind of stuff. People want to see it. And unfortunately, you know, the balance between being responsible and giving people what they want, there's a thin line between both of them. And it's, okay, do you not give people what they want and not have us, you know, and lose your show? Or do you give them what they want and still try to balance it out with other things going on? You know, one thing that I notice is, you know, Mona Scott Young, for example, you know, she gets a lot of flack, you know, with love and hip hop and how it depicts black women. But I have seen that she puts a lot more families on her reality shows now. The women that she chooses have, you know, boyfriends, and they might have a child, and you see them trying to make their relationship work, and it really becomes kind of a soap opera love story where, yeah, they do get involved in their little, you know, put the little Vaseline on the face and tie the hair back, but at the end of the day, you know, you also get to see them in their family life and seeing black love. I mean, you know, white people got honey boo boo. So, you know, they're on the air. We should be able to work in television and make our money and build our stars and show a balance of who we are as well. I think as long as you're responsible with it and you show the good, you know, with whatever else comes, then we cool.
Well, to that point, do you think black people are incapable of being pleased? Because it seems whatever it is we put out, there's always so much criticism.
Yeah, you know, the problem is, it's not that we're incapable of being pleased, it's that we have so few outlets that we expect each outlet to give us everything. And it's impossible. You know, if we had an all-black, you know, Christian channel, and an all-black reality channel, and an all-black, you know, comedy channel, then we could pick and choose what we want to see, and we don't have to bother with the stuff we don't like. But unfortunately, you know, we only have one BET. You know, we only have one TV One, or, you know, one Centric, and so on and so forth. But those opportunities are growing. You know, you got Sean Puffy Combs about to come out with Revolt. You know, you have, you know, also let's not forget that media has changed too. You know, we have the online space is huge. Television doesn't rule anymore. People spend more time on their phones, you know, and on their computers and their laptops than they do at home watching TV. You know, so there are also other players involved, such as the Netflix and the Googles and the Yahoos, who are stepping in and allowing us to come in and bring content to the table. Content really is now starting to become king. At one time, they always said it, but I think now it's more evident than ever that content is king. And thanks to technology, we have the ability to get it out there. Even if it's just on our own. You know, what's the sister's name that had her show picked up by HBO? Sorry? not Lisa Ray. Issa Rae. Issa Rae. You know, a sister that self-financed her own stuff, put it on YouTube, got a humongous following. We gave her the following, and now look, she's making major moves in Hollywood. You know, so it really is the great equalizer. If you have something good and you bring it out to the forefront.
So that leads into my question. Name is Yoli from Yoli's Green Living. So two questions, completely separate. First one is, we see people like Pharrell having the network like I Am Mother, and I've seen other actors and actresses talk about the lack of roles. Has there ever been like this internal underground Hollywood discussion amongst your peers about pooling resources to create your own online network or something of that would reflect some of the works you would like to put out?
You know, unfortunately, I haven't been privy to those conversations if they do exist. It's a shame because the conversations that do exist are the lack of roles, the lack of black leading characters, you know, in their own feature films and superhero roles. But what I am seeing is the number of entrepreneurs growing in entertainment. People are just at this point now saying, you know what, it doesn't cost that much anymore to put something out, to make something and put it out. And you may not necessarily get it on this one, but you know, Hollywood has evolved now. They're looking for content. They're looking for content providers. They have agents now at agencies that they're internet agents. All they do is sit there and troll the internet all day long, looking for who's hot and who's doing what and who's got, you know, a following. And I look too. I look to see who's hot and who's doing what. I mean, I found these brothers, these twin brothers out of D.C. They're called the Hodge twins. Two brothers, buff dudes. They work out. They have their own internet channel on YouTube, and these guys get millions and millions of hit per 3-minute video. And to me, I think it's brilliant. You know, and they were just in Hollywood last week taking meetings with agents and they're knocking on, agents are coming to them because of the following that they've established. And their following is Germany, France, you know, all the countries that, you know, I always hear, oh, well, black doesn't sell overseas. The black story or the black experience or the black people don't communicate to, you know, overseas or in the European market. That's BS. Because I've been in more than one airport in London, France, Italy, and I've been stopped by people from that country saying they love my films. And my first question is, well, how'd you see it? Oh, online. We see it online. You know, or I was shooting Battle of the Year, the film that I have coming out in September. And in the barbershop in Montpellier, south of France, this little tiny spot, there's an African barbershop there where all our movies are being played on bootleg DVDs because they don't have access to it. The distributors don't know or don't care to know that black people do sell overseas. But through the use of the internet, we're getting there. And we're there and they know who we are. And it's only a matter of time before that wall comes down too. No matter how much they try to hold it up, it's crumbling. It's like the Berlin Wall. We're kicking it down.
Will there be a Jumping the Broom too?
I hope so. I hope so. I actually have lunch with Devon Franklin this week, and I think the social media pressure that I've been putting on him and TD Jakes is finally starting to get to him because he's like, all right, man, let's do lunch, you know. But I've been personally, you know, meeting with, you know, people that worked on Jumping the Broom 1 and some of the producers from that film and writers and just trying to develop my own pitch. You know, because I'm not just going to sit around and wait, hopefully. You know, I mean, I look at a movie like The Best Man. Who didn't love The Best Man? You know, everybody in that movie is a viable star on their own right. You know, but how long did it take for Best Man 2 to come out? It's coming out, I think, this November. And the trailers look amazing. But I would have loved to, I think there should be a Best Man 4 by now. You know, I think Malcolm Lee's a brilliant director. You know, I love his work. You know, and so we are in the age now where, you know, you can't sit around and wait for the phone to ring or wait for somebody to come up with an idea. Just come up with it and go pitch it. Devon is a friend, and I'm going to keep pitching him till he either stops taking my calls or we get Jumping the Broom 2, you know, in theaters soon. So
Can you tell us more about this this new movie with Sony with you and Chris Brown and your role in it? What are you? Are you a old b-boy? I mean, old school b-boy?
Yeah, I'm an ex-b-boy. Which in real life I am an ex-b-boy.
We know.
Yeah, but my body. Oh, sure. Well, yeah. Yeah. Only my body just doesn't move the same. Unfortunately, I thought I had it, and when I showed up on set and I saw what those kids were doing, I was like, nah. And they ain't paying me enough to try to do that, you know. But you know, b-boying as an art. The film is called Battle of the Year. It comes out in September. I play a Sean Puffy Combs-esque character, and I based it on him. I based the character on him, named Dante, who he's the successful owner of this record label and a hip-hop mogul who has helped make hip-hop, you know, a pop culture phenomenon. So we kind of know who the writer based it on. You know, but this is something that's real. We created b-boying. You know, it's one of the pillars of hip-hop. And for the last 13 years, the U.S. has been losing every b-boy competition worldwide. B-boying is an art that the rest of the world, and this is why I know black culture, what they try to say is BS. We do sell overseas. They want to see our stuff. I was in an arena in Montpellier, France, for the annual b-boy competition. There were no artists that came in to perform. No Jay-Z, no Fab, no Trey Songz. Nobody went in to perform. It was just a dance competition. 13,000 people in an arena just to watch a dance competition. Is hip-hop alive overseas? Absolutely. Is urban culture and hip-hop culture alive overseas? Absolutely. Who created that culture? Black culture. They want to see what we have going on. You know, so this is what this movie talks about, is this icon goes overseas and he sees that hip-hop and b-boying is alive overseas and is dying in the U.S. So he comes back and puts this dream team together and goes to represent the U.S. It's almost like a b-boy Olympics. That's really what it is. It feels more like a sports movie than it does a dance movie. You know, it's like Friday Night Lights with backflips.
So can you bust a couple moves?
No, you know why? Because I'd be busting something else. Yeah, and it would probably end up. Yeah, it would be bad. It would be bad.
I've run an automotive one. Can you tell me about your first car? And grab that third knife.
This one right here, man. I'm a car nut. I love cars, and but my first car was nothing I would be proud of. But I was an automotive head back then with no money. I was balling on a budget, and this is why I was balling on a budget. I had a Chevrolet Spectrum, and so you know, Chevrolet Spectrum, little 4-door, 4-cylinder. You know, I mean, you step on it, and it sounded like it was going to do something, but you weren't going nowhere. You know, and I went to Pep Boys. You know, in DC, I'm from the DMV area, and we have an automotive store called Pep Boys. And I went crazy on that car. I put a spoiler kit on that car. I put a fake hood scoop, the kind that's adhesive. So there was a hood scoop on the hood, but it wasn't going anywhere. It was just a hood scoop. I painted, you know, myself. I painted the bumpers all white, the grill all white. I mean, that thing looked like a big mushroom cloud. It looked like a snowball coming down the street. You know, tinted it out, put a sunroof in. I did everything on it. And it might have cost me about $13 to hook that car up. But I even painted the rims white. The only thing I didn't paint were the tires. I mean, it was just horrible. You know, that was my thing. You know, that was my thing. And that for a high school kid, oh, I was balling. Couldn't nobody tell me nothing. Used to get my car radio stolen because I didn't live in the best of neighborhoods. Used to get my car radio stolen every other week. You know, I had teddy bears in the back window, back when teddy bears and stuffed animals were in style. I ain't gonna tell you, you know, what year that was, but y'all can kind of figure it out. Back when that was hot, get the teddy bears stolen, put bigger teddy bears in. You know, and you know, I back then, you know, you identified who you were through how you hooked your car up, and that was my whip.
Last question.
Ford is one of the sponsors here. Do you have a Ford story?
Ford, you know what, man? I wanted a Ford Mustang. That's what I really wanted. But I couldn't afford a Mustang back then. It was just it was out of my league. you know. So that was the dream whip, to have that Ford Mustang, you know.
Could you tell us, since we're here thanks to Verizon,
Sure.
what is your phone of choice?
That was gonna be my question.
That's our last question.
You know, I'm gonna tell you, I have 2 phones. I have an iPhone 5, and that is what I use for my media. You know, for all my like Instagram, Twitter, Vine, all my social media, pictures, capturing moments. And then I have a BlackBerry that I use strictly for emails, and that's my email phone. So I have about 9 email accounts. And the reason why I use 2 phones is because I don't want to clog up either phone with unnecessary stuff. I've done the 1 phone thing, and then, I mean, eventually that phone can only handle but so much traffic before it starts slowing down. So I figured out that having 2 phones doing 2 completely separate things keeps them sane, and it keeps me sane. You know, so I'm not trying to throw a phone across the room or on the line, you know, with Verizon, like, help me out. I need an iPhone rep. I need a BlackBerry rep, you know. So that made my life a lot easier when I just separated and divided the job that each phone does.
So you do a lot of your own social media?
I do all of my own social media.
Awesome.
I'm afraid of somebody speaking for me because what if they have a bad day? You know what I'm
It
saying?
has happened. We've
Absolutely.
seen it.
You know, and nowadays you have so many people watching. I mean, I'm shocked sometimes when I see who's following me. And, you know, I mean, I've said things that have ended up on, you know, ESPN, you know, where they sometimes just flash across the screen. And, you know, even now with the Zimmerman trial, you know, they're watching. They're watching you. And if I say something and I'm going to be responsible and own what I say, it has to be me saying it.
Makes sense.
Nobody else speaking for me.
And for everyone, what's your Twitter? And then we're out.
My Twitter is @LazOfficial. Please follow me. Instagram also @LazOfficial, LAZ official. Facebook is facebook.com/LazOfficial. No longer on MySpace, but I heard Kevin Hart is on MySpace, so if he's on MySpace, you better believe my ass is getting back on MySpace. He's doing something right. But yeah, Laz Official is my handle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right,
We're
y'all.
waiting for you outside.
Oh, okay, cool.